Hey, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for waiting. I got late by a few minutes. My laptop was acting up. Cool. Let's see who all we have on the call. We are missing a couple of folks, but I think we can get started. Let's see if someone has messaged me on my phone. Just give me 1 minute. I'll just drop a note and then we can get started. Meanwhile, we are waiting for folks. Any questions from your side? Any questions from anyone?
Um, just one from the last class was as the Scrum Master, we just come in the testing phase, just to be clear on that phase.
We have
And
not talked anything about Scrum Master yet, so please wait on that.
okay.
All right, we can get started. So today is the class where we're going to talk really a lot about the Scrum Master role this week and next week. And we're going to talk about the testing phase. Those two are the important things for us. In between, what happens? We just have to coordinate and deal with people. Nothing that important. So let me open my documents and go from there. We'll first talk about the user stories. Did you guys try getting the free access for Azure DevOps and Jira?
I tried to watch YouTube videos on Azure DevOps, and some of them were like 7 hours. So, and some of them were 1 hour. So,
Don't worry, I'll send the link for them. It should not be more than 15-30 minutes.
oh, okay.
And
Okay.
but I'm really wanting to see if someone has downloaded or someone has created the account for Azure DevOps and Jira.
No, I'm still
No.
lacking
Yeah.
behind on those.
Okay, that is okay. Please make a point to do that. I think looking at YouTube videos will help you, but looking at things in action will help you more, like how the actual interface looks like, right? And let me open the user story. And we'll still spend some more time today in that. I'll add some more user stories for you all and probably provide you guys an access to that.
So I have a question about the user stories that you have provided. How are we supposed to, like, what's the purpose of it? We read it, but then what do we do?
User story?
Yeah, there's a spreadsheet where you have listed different scenarios, like different user stories.
Spreadsheet or Word document?
Yeah, spreadsheet. It's a spreadsheet, I believe. Let me check.
I'm not
But
sure.
I was, yeah, I'll come back on this later. I'll check the
I've
document.
given you access to share your screen. Whenever you are ready, let me know. I'll give you
Okay.
access to share your screen and we can look at it together on the
Okay.
call.
Okay.
So purpose of user story is simple, right? You're creating documentation for development team and testing team so they can test and they can develop your develop the functionality you asked for. It's more like whenever US president defines any law, there is a documentation around that, right? Once the documentation is created and approved, you share that information with everybody in US now so that people start following that rules and regulations, right? So we are creating documentation for our development team and quality analyst team so they can start developing this functionality for us. Cool. And all right, let's get started with the actual class. Let me also open Microsoft DevOps in parallel. There is a process before I get login. I have to approve several things. And that's how it works in the office as well. Go back and find the access. While I'm finding that information, can someone explain what is a user story? Does someone want to try how to answer that question? What is a user story?
I believe it's like each step of the process, like going through. Is it the screenshot? I don't remember if it's the screenshots of the user experience. If that's the same as the user story. No, sorry, that's the user journey.
Mm-hmm.
User story is the documentation of all the functionalities.
I would say that user story is to explain the product in terms of the customer's perspective. Mostly the functional requirements, we write it in terms as a user story.
And what do you mean by that? Like, how do we write a user story?
So for example, if one of the functional requirement is to develop a sign-in page, we create a user story, how the user is going to use the app and how the person is going to use the sign-in page and create a profile and things like that. So that's a user story.
Could we say that the user story is just a user journey in written form?
No. You guys are missing out on the key definition of user story. As you write user story as a user, I want this so that. When someone asks you what is a user story, you write a user story, right? And you write the acceptance criteria within that. So what is user story? You write user stories in the format of, as a user, I want this functionality so that I can do these things. And there is an acceptance criteria under that.
Gotcha. And then the user journey is created.
User journey is created. Like, so when you write the user journey, you can have user journey, you can attach mockups, wireframes, you can attach business rules, business requirements, and all those things within that. Right? All that BRD thing, the entire BRD thing, we can put in that if we want to. Or whatever time permits, we can add that much information.
I think the name user story because it's especially we create for developers, right? Because they need high level information. So
yep.
But aren't we keeping in mind the customer's perspective on this?
That is the reason it's called user story, right? So first, when someone asks you what is a user story, your first answer should be, hey, we write user stories in the format, as a user, I want this so that, and give an example, right? From one of the class, from one of the, for one of the feature that we built in the class, give an example. This is how I write the user stories. and there are acceptance criteria within that. And while writing acceptance criteria, I make sure that I provide specific information about that story and provide some mock-ups or wireframes if required, and call out the positive and negative scenarios in that. That's how I write user stories usually. Make sense? That's what you say when someone asks you what is a user story. And you can add at the end if you want to. It's from the user's perspective. When we write stories, when we write information, we write from the user's perspective. Cool. Let's get started. So we are going to go through some more stories today. And so there is one story from the Uber app now. So this is for, if you remember on Uber app, when we were writing stories on Uber app, there was a payment screen. In that payment screen, we had several payment options. This is for Venmo payments only from that screen. Do you guys remember that screen? Do you guys remember that screen or not?
No, I do
Okay,
not.
let me open that. Let me open that for you so it will make more sense. Are you still able to see my screen? Can you guys see
Yeah.
my screen?
Yes.
So if you
Yes.
remember in our user journey for Uber, this is what we covered in the class. When someone puts their email ID and phone number, once that gets verified, after that, after this screen, it asks them to add the payment method when someone is signing up, or probably when someone is has signed up without the credit card information, then they can add this step later. So when they want to add the payment method, there are multiple payment methods here: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different payment methods. Now, payment method itself is one big project, as we talked about last time, right? Under this, we are talking about, these are all third-party tools: Venmo, credit card, PayPal, commuter benefits, Google Pay, gift card. These are all third-party tools. Our company does not own any of this, right? So there may be multiple stories required for each of this option that you have here. Just to make this, if you remember what we said, there will be one user story at a minimum for one screen, or there could be several user stories based on the functionality we are developing, right? Do you guys remember this statement that we made in last class? So this particular screen, if you see here, this particular screen can just be one story, because all you're doing is entering first name, last name, phone number, email ID, and password. And that's all you're doing here, right? This can be one story only. We don't need multiple stories for this one. If you were to make this phone number field dynamic, like based on your IP address, it should populate this area code or country code, then it can become, just this piece itself will become one more story. But otherwise, this is a small functionality. This can be all part of one story only. But over here, because we are going to interact with 6 different vendors, 6 different products, right? If Venmo is ready, we can't say Google Pay is ready. If credit card is ready, we cannot say Google Pay is ready, or vice versa, right? When one payment method is ready, only one payment method is ready, because we don't know how these things are going to come up, and whether we are going to integrate this successfully or not. So we will have to break this one piece into several user stories. So at a minimum, we will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stories here. Okay. And for these 6 stories, I'm talking about the Venmo story right now. So when someone clicks on Venmo, what should happen? That is what I'm going to describe here. So as a customer, I want to be able to make payments using my Venmo account, so that I do not have to provide my credit card information, and I can sign up or pay quickly after my ride is complete. Does this make sense to you? Is this a good benefit and good reason why do we need to integrate this?
Yes. They don't have to like sign up for additional credit card information.
Have any one of you used Venmo before?
Yeah, I have.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Have you guys used Zelle before?
Yeah.
So Venmo and Zelle are pretty similar. But it's a different way of doing transaction. At Venmo, I think you use someone's user ID as opposed to their email ID and phone number, and then you transfer the money to them. And you cannot download Zelle's app and send money easily. But for Venmo, it's the other way around. You download Venmo's app, and to receive, and this is again me using Venmo long time back. This is how it used to work. I don't know if things have changed now. If I send money to, let's say, Shrey will have to have Venmo application, and then only from there he can accept the money or reject the request, or he can raise the request that I want money from you, and I can send him money, but it has to be on Venmo app. When we're transferring money through Zelle, it is not that way. We do it from our personal bank account, right? We go to our bank account. There is an option for Zelle integrated. You click on Zelle and you make and you do the transaction. So the way Venmo and Zelle is different is because Zelle lets you make payments directly from your bank, but Venmo is a little different. Venmo connects your bank account and lets you make a transaction after that. Because you are using Venmo, you don't have to share any other information from your account. Your money will be directly taken from your account of bank or your credit card account. So that is the reason people use Venmo for. So this is one option where I would say right now more than 40% Americans population is on Venmo. That is the reason. So you might be wondering that why do we choose only these 6 options here: Venmo, credit card, PayPal, and these 6 options. And if you see, I've said Google Pay, not Apple Pay, because this is for Android. If it is Apple, this Google Pay will not work. It will be Apple Pay, right? So we have done some research before finalizing what options should we provide. And this usually comes from our users and some information in US, where how many people are using what kind of payment method. So based on that, we made decisions that there are 6 different payment methods, and we'll talk about Venmo today. So how this is going to work? While a customer is signing up, are we good on the background so far? Are we good on the foundation? Can I move forward?
Yes.
Okay. So the acceptance criteria goes this way. And again, I'm not doing anything different than what we've done in the business requirements document. While a customer is signing up for iOS mobile application and verifies the phone number, then he or she shall be navigated to add payment method screen. All I'm trying to say here is when you verify your email ID and after this screen, you will go to this screen. And let me put this side by side so you guys can read this better and follow at the same time. Okay, so can you all see my screen still? There is a Word document on the side and there is the user journey on the side. Can you see the document?
No.
No,
Can you see the screen? No?
no.
No.
How about now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So this is the screen we're talking about here, just for your knowledge. So while a customer is signing up for our iOS mobile application and verifies the phone number, then he or she shall be navigated to add payment method screen. On payment method screen, customers will see various payment options. For a US based customers, you see I'm calling out for US based customers. Can someone tell me why am I making that statement here? Can someone tell me?
Because Venmo is global.
Venmo is available only in US.
I mean, Uber is global.
Uber is global. That's correct. That's one reason. And the second reason is Venmo is available only in US. It will not be available on outside of US, if I'm not wrong. So if someone is using Uber's app outside of US, they will not see this Venmo option. Okay.
Gotcha.
So this options will change based on your country. Based on your device, based on your country, those options will change. It is that dynamic. That's why I said it's a project on its own, or I can say it's several projects on its own. This is not a simple functionality to build. So for US-based customers, it would show Venmo options. If a customer selects Venmo option, then he or she will be routed to Venmo mobile app. Customers provides and verifies his Venmo credentials. Customer is routed back to Uber app automatically after the credentials are verified. Once this step is completed, customer will be routed to the main screen to book a ride. Does this make sense? So if
Yeah.
when the moment you click on Venmo, it will take you to the Venmo screen. When you want to make a payment from PayPal, the moment you click on PayPal button, it takes you to the PayPal login screen, right? The moment you log in there, your app will register your account now, and it will start communicating with this Venmo account and start doing transactions on that. Whenever your ride is completed, it will automatically charge on that. So I've just called out that, hey, customers provides the value. So I've called out the entire scenario here, how this entire function is going to work. Once this step is complete, customer will be routed to the main screen to book a ride. All good? Now, I'm talking about negative scenarios. So this is a positive scenario. When I say positive scenario, it is always the happy path. Happy path is like everything happens good. Like customer already had the Venmo app and they clicked on the Venmo, they entered their credential, they had the account and everything worked out well. Now I'm going to talk about some negative scenarios. Negative scenarios would be, when I say negative scenarios, I don't mean in a bad way. Okay. All I'm trying to say is there are other scenarios which may not be straightforward. So this one is, if customer does not have Venmo app, then it must display an informative message for customers. So if I click on Venmo and if I do not have Venmo app, what is going to happen? What's going to happen after that?
You won't get the money.
No, you will be asked to download the app first.
So money is never, you will never get the money, right? Shrey, this is to give money to Uber. This is to send money to Uber. So, or if you're in driver app, then it could be different thing. Then you can get money in your Venmo app. That's a separate story. But for passenger app, when you put this information, money will be deducted from this account, or there will be a refund made. That's it. So if you don't have the Venmo app, it will ask you to download the Venmo app. Correct? So you are required to download the Venmo app. So it will just say, I'm just again going through again this criteria. If a customer does not have Venmo app, then it must display an informative message for customer. That is, you are required to download the Venmo app prior to setting that as your payment method, so that you could use Venmo's app to confirm your identity. Now, step 2 is go to App Store. This is the sample message I'm giving it on the screen. It might be a pop-up. It might open another page. But the moment I click on Venmo, if there is no Venmo app on my phone, then I would see these 3 steps, or possibly these 4 steps. So this is what I would see on my screen. Go to the App Store to download the app, or you can click here to go to the App Store directly. Open Uber app again and select Venmo as the payment option. So I'm giving some instructions, right? If customer downloads the Venmo app, they would not know what should they do after that. So once they download the Venmo app, they have to come back to Uber app again and select this Venmo as the payment method to continue with their setup process. Or if you don't want to do this, you could put your credit card information to make it easy and not go through the steps by clicking here. And when they click here, it will just take them to this screen. Make sense? Is it making sense or no?
Yes, so far.
Okay. The next step here is for the same, there is one more scenario. Customers will see an error message if he or she has not provided valid credentials for Venmo, which means users can get stuck on this page. Hence, we need to provide a back button so that users can come back to the actual Uber app and select a different payment method. So if you see here, when you select a credit card here, there's a back button on the top here which says add card, right? If I click on this, I'll be coming back to the screen. So likewise, when I click on Venmo, if it takes me to the Venmo login screen, on that screen, I should have a back button. If not, I would not be able to come back to the screen and there will be a problem if I'm stuck for some reason on that screen. So this is additional scenario. Making sense? All good so far?
Yes.
And over here, these are the additional information that you can put in. What kind of analytics you want to track in. You can probably say, I want to capture every single click that happens on this page. Like if someone clicks on Venmo, how many users clicked on Venmo versus credit card versus PayPal. So I want to capture that click. How many people actually get successful on Venmo. So now if something is on Venmo's side, when you open Venmo's application, you lose that tracking. You would not be able to track that anymore because it's a Venmo's application. You cannot track someone else's application. Can you track what is going on Google's application every day? You cannot, right? So there are some limitations. So you need to work through that, work with your product manager to find out, hey, what all we are going to save or what all we are going to store from the story perspective to find the data on, which is this. Web responsive or cross-browser requirements. We don't have to worry too much about this because this was the native application. Had this been a web page, like web page means some website link, .com/something, right? Had it been that link, we would have to worry about the web responsive. Can someone tell me what is web responsive or cross-browser requirements?
If you're using Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox or Internet Explorer, for example.
That's cross-browser, okay? What's web responsive?
If the user interface is like smooth and fast.
Someone else wants to try? Guys, you're forgetting. When you go to these more tools here, developer tools,
Yes.
this is web responsive. I can change the device. Based on device, your screen size will change. Your screen look and feel will change. Do you see this? It's from one device to another device.
Yeah, I forgot we can open up a web browser on our phone.
Yeah. So web responsive is that one. So, but this is not, we don't have to worry too much about this, but there could still be possibility when you're opening this Venmo's login screen, it should work really well in all devices, right? And roles and permissions, again, if you want to talk about them, like which users will have access to this. So of course, passengers will have access to this. And a person who is managing passengers application, like an admin on Uber side, that person will have an access to this as well, this screen, to make sure if something goes wrong for the user, they help them up in setting up their account. Cool. So this is one story on Venmo. Any questions?
So, what's the purpose of you have like Azure DevOps open next to it, right?
Oh no, I was doing something. Not.
Oh, okay.
So users should be able to quickly and easily apply for a home mortgage loan online. So let's talk about some other user stories here. Another flavor of e-commerce. So this one is for credit card. This story is for credit card over here, this option. And let's see how it reads. As a user, I should be able to select credit card as payment option so that I can make payments for my Uber rides without giving Venmo or PayPal account details. So people who wants to sign up with credit card, of course, for them, Venmo and payment is not convenient. Either they don't have account or they don't feel comfortable using their account, right? So for them, this is what the acceptance criteria is going to look like. Customer's personal information and phone number is verified and customer is navigated to add payment method screen. Same. When this information is verified on their screen, this one and this one, they'll be going to this screen. So this is the first acceptance criteria. Customer chooses credit card as the payment option. After that, customer enters credit card number, CVV, month or year, and zip code. Over here, customer selects country and submits the information. Customer credit card information is verified, and if it's correct, customer is navigated to the next screen to book a ride. So the moment you click on next year, it will take you to this screen, right? That's how it works. So you see, I have not left any loose ends here. I'm talking about entire. What is the input and what is the output? So they're coming from this page they're going to this page after clicking on this. And once the information is successful, they'll be routed to this page. And I'll stop here because this page is a separate user story. But I'm actually calling out what happens before, what is happening right now, and what is going to happen after I submit this information. Right? So that developer knows that they have to code it this way. Otherwise, what they will do, when you click on next, it will go to some random page, which you have not asked for. And now you have to raise a bug. Hey, it should go to the application, the home page, so that they can book the ride. And now that will be another user story. They'll say it was not part of the acceptance criteria, so I did not code it that way. They might have just routed this to a blank page or some random page. So you want to tell them that it should go to this page. Further, customers should be able to add different card types, which is Amex, MasterCard, Visa, and Discover. Customers should be allowed to add up to 3 credit cards. This is the minimum and maximum condition. If you guys remember, we talked about threshold conditions, right? They can add up to 3 credit cards, not more than that. Customer should be prompted to choose a default card option in the event customer has added more than 1 credit card. Is it right? Is it making sense? If you have 3 credit cards, Uber should charge you on which card? There has to be a default card on the file, right? Your first preference card. So you need to call out that. So on this screen, there may be a button here that says, make this as my default card. When you add second or third card, then the button will come up and it will show you which card you want to make as your default card. So over here, you'll have a button that says, select this as my default card. So all the payments will be made on this particular card that you are adding in. If it's Amex card, verify CVV is 4 digit. Can someone tell me why I captured this explicitly here? Can someone tell me? If you guys remember, for Visa, MasterCard, and Discover, your CVC number is always of 3 digits. But for Amex, it could be of 4 digits. And it is not behind the card, it is always in the front of the card. So Amex works a little differently than Master, Visa, and Discover. So you want to make sure that if this field will not accept 3 digits, will actually accept 4 digits, but not more than that.
And sometimes doesn't Amex ask for the security number on the back? Because there is a 3-digit security number.
I've used Amex long back. At least back then, I was not being asked for that. I was just asked for CVC, and CVC number is this.
Yes, you're right about that.
So this is again happy scenario, right? What I've done again, I've called out the page previous to this, page after this, and on this page, what we have, in addition to that, like this is all the positive scenarios. Now I'm going to talk about what can go wrong on this screen as a user. So this is where this comes in the picture. If credit information is not correct, credit card information is not correct, customer is given a message to verify card details. If customer's billing address does not match address on the credit card, then provide an error message saying please confirm address. Customer should be allowed to enter the credit card information 3 times. After that, the screen will just lock. It will not work for them because we don't know if someone is trying to hack into the system or not. Right? So these are the error scenarios. There are some more scenarios that could happen here. Customer should be able to see actual card from my account after card is being added successfully. Am I right to say this? When you add your credit card information while signing up, now once you have signed up, once you are on this screen, how would you go back and see your card again? You click on this menu, you click on my account. Under your account, you will see this card that you have added here. This card information will be stored there, right? So customer should be able to see actual card from my account after card is being added successfully. Customer shall have an option to add or modify or remove this credit card after they go to my account from here. Now that can become another story if you want to, but I'm just calling it out here so that you know that there are so many scenarios that you have to cover for this credit card. Customer shall have an option to skip this information during the sign up process. He or she needs to provide this info before ride is booked. So I can have a skip button here because it's a sign up process. I don't want to make it mandatory for customers to sign up or to add credit card information. Once they want to book the ride, before they book the ride, they have to provide us that information. So all I'm saying is that there could be a skip button here or somewhere on the screen. So customers shall have an option to skip this information during the sign up process, but it is mandatory that they will not be able to book the ride here before providing the credit card information. So which means the moment you request for a ride here, you put your where to address and you request a ride, it will ask you fill your credit card information, or it will take you back to the screen. Choose your payment method and you add this information, and then you can continue with booking your ride. Terms and conditions checkbox, we don't have it here, but there has to be one terms and conditions on this page, because payment is a highly regulated industry. You want to make sure you've captured terms and conditions where customers know that on this card, if there are no cards available on your account, the card that you're providing, on this card, there will be amount charged from Uber, and you give us permission to make that transaction. So terms and conditions checkboxed, and we need to get this information from legal. There could be reporting requirements. Again, reporting requirements would be, because we have created this screen, it could be how many people clicked on next and got the errors, how many got successful and came to this page, how many chose here Discover or Amex card, something like that, right? So we can keep those reporting requirements if we want to. We can talk about web responsive requirements again, and we can talk about roles and permissions, which means admins who are managing passengers application, they can see this kind of information on their screen as well. So this is another example of how to write a user story on a credit card project.
So what was that web response?
Didn't we just discuss that? Web responsive. You go here, you click on 3 dots. You try web responsive is nothing but on different size of screens and different size of devices, your page looks appropriate. So when you open Google on your phone versus Google on your laptop, it should look perfect.
Okay, okay, I got it.
Right, this is web responsive. So third one, again, PayPal project. Let's go to PayPal. PayPal would be very similar to Venmo, but we'll just cover it here again for sake of it. So as a customer, I want to be able to make payments using my PayPal account so that I do not have to provide my credit card information and I can sign up or pay quickly after my ride is complete. Exact same story as we had for Venmo, because they're not very different methods to make a payment. Now, while a customer is signing up for iOS or mobile application, iOS or Android mobile application, and verifies phone number, then he or she shall be navigated to add payment method screen, which is this. So I'm using this title as the screen name. Over here, this is edit account screen. This is enter verification code screen. So you need to come up with names, unique names for each screen when you're talking about screens with your team. On a payment method screen, customers will see various payment options. PayPal is one of them. And again, this is only for US based customer. If PayPal is outside of US, you can probably list out those countries. If customer selects PayPal option, then he or she will be routed to PayPal mobile application. Customer provides and verifies PayPal credentials. Customer is routed back to Uber app automatically after the credentials are verified. Once this step is completed, customers will be routed to the main screen to book a ride, which is this one. Again, right? Now, additional scenarios are same. If someone does not have a PayPal app, what should happen? They should see a sample message. Sample message would be download the PayPal app. To do that, you have to go to the App Store, click here, and open Uber app again after you have downloaded the PayPal app. Or you can add credit card information to continue with your sign up process. You can do whatever you want. We can add one more option here if you have to, which is skip. But I don't want to skip. I don't want to have that skip easily on all the options, because if I add skip, all the users are going to skip. They're not going to give us any information. So which means when customers have signed up, they're never going to book a ride from us. Customer who is seriously putting in the credit card information or this information, that customer is seriously looking to book a ride in near future from us, right? Then last is customers will see an error message when PayPal credentials are not right. So when you are on PayPal screen, when you click on PayPal, it takes you to PayPal screen. On that screen, it will give you an error message that hey, your user ID and password did not match. So same thing like Venmo, we just need to put these things here, and that's it. So any questions on this? I just make sure they're all lined up together so you can go through them one after another. This is what your user stories are made up of. We good? Do you guys see that I'm following this? I'm following the same structure of business requirements document here. I'm asking the same questions that I used to ask that. And the reason is whether you choose waterfall or agile. Agile is Scrum basically. Your requirements are not going to change, right? Whether you follow approach 1 or approach 2, a homeowner that needs a house, that his or her requirements are not going to change. They still need a house. They still need doors in the house. They still need locks in the house. They still need walls in the house. They still have to paint the house. They still have to have kitchen. They still have to have bathroom. They still have to have bedroom. They still have to have sofa, right? Their requirements are not going to change. Now it's up to you whether you use option 1 to build that house, or you use option 2 to build that house. Am I right here? And when that happens, when you choose option 1 versus option 2, there is a different mindset, right? You have 2 options, and you'll always go with the option which is more beneficial to you. So you always want to make sure that, hey, if I'm going with 2 different options, I will choose the one that really suits my profile and my abilities, and go from there. So whatever you write in BRD, those are still your questions. But a lot of times what happens is in Agile, you don't have time to write those questions and answers, but you discuss them with your team, and gradually you all come to a consensus that, hey, we know we are going to put less information, but behind the scene, we still need to think about these things. And that's where your responsibility gets shifted to developer and a QA, where they will also start thinking out of the box. They will not just read these things and code it blindly. They will start using their brain now. Hey, you have not covered this negative scenario. What if this happens? What if this happens? So you are training them to analyze at the same point. Am I making sense? If you don't have a business analyst in your company, if there is a business analyst and product owner both in your company, then this is all BS job to make sure that they think about all these scenarios. And whatever payment scenario you think about for one, all those payment scenarios will be applicable for all of them. Here. Are we good?
And in Agile, main focus is to at least get a product up and running for the main functions that app is supposed to provide.
That's correct. That's correct.
So the example that you're giving right now looks like a BRD, which is in a waterfall environment.
Which one? The one I'm browsing right now on the screen? No, don't worry about that. I'm not talking about it right now. So
Okay.
this was not a BRD. I was just talking about the gap analysis. So it is more of a project charter. This is the overview of the project that we did for Academy Mortgage. This is the overview for that project. This is how it works right now, and this is how it should work in future. And I've just attached some business rules here for that company.
So versus if we do this project in Agile, it'll be just the wireframes and the mockups that we would be creating versus writing the whole document.
That's correct. Wireframes, mockups, and user stories. So I'll give you, I think, let's talk about the examples of that story now. So let's go back. This is where our actual mortgage project gets started now. So on mortgage project, you have a promotional rates. Let me open the document.
So I have another question. Is user story similar to user journey? Because it's all that is like from step 1, 2, 3.
Conceptually, you might think I've written a user journey here. But the reason I go in that format is because I want to make sure I don't forget any single point to mention in my stories. And people, when they're reading the acceptance criteria, it's an organized approach where people can read things easily, right? So I go in that order to make it easy for someone to read through things. But there is no mandatory rule that you have to go in this order or you talk about user journey. But I do that because it helps me.
I guess
my question is both of them the same? Like, let's say it's an interview question, so we have to answer it. No.
And also, I think we discussed this before the call gets started. I think Shreya asked the same question, or Abdul asked the same question.
Okay.
User journey and user story are completely different. What you see here is user journey. What you see here is user story.
So user story is basically a product, like is a, something like a BRD. That's what we are doing. Because we are writing everything down.
Yes.
User
Do
story.
not say in the interview. Do not say in the interview that user story and BRDs are same, because they are very, very different. You'll be rejected straight away the moment you say this in the interview. But behind the scene, in back of our mind, we need to know that we need to capture a similar information in user story.
So
Right?
you use the user story in Agile, or you don't?
That's, yeah, use user story in Agile. And in
Okay.
Waterfall, you use BRD.
Okay.
Okay.
Because you told us that we write a very limited, there is not much of time of processing, but this is like a big document that we are
So
writing.
if you start your project, I think there are two things that I said. So development team and QA team will always need more information, right? Because we are moving from Waterfall to Agile. They always need more information.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start your project first time in your company, you will not know anything about the product. So it's in your favor when you write this detailed user acceptance criteria. This detailed user stories and acceptance criteria. And I said that do this only for first 1 month or 2 months to earn trust from your development team and quality analyst team and to get your knowledge. And you will have some downtime when you start your project in the first month in your company. You will have some downtime where you can have time to write these things. After that 1 month or 6 weeks, you will not have this much time to write these things.
Got it.
So you have to go, whatever time permits, you just write like few lines and just move out of it. But again, when you do that, it is still your responsibility to make sure the developers and QAs have understood the unsaid things. If they are not following, if they still need documentation, if they are still struggling, there are only two options. Either you change them or you change your user story and write more information to that. It's very dynamic. Like it depends on your team, how they want these things to be, right? So if you do not get enough support from your boss, where your boss says that, hey, I feel you should write more information in the user story, then do not ask question. Then go ahead and write these detailed user stories. Assume that that's how this company works. But if your boss tells you that, hey, why are you writing these detailed user stories, man? They should be doing this on their own. Then understand that their mindset. They're not expecting you to write this detailed acceptance criteria. And now you just have to cut down your information and not give this much information.
So that every company is different? Every environment will be different?
Every company is different. Every team is
there
different.
There is no one set. Okay.
There is no set. And every team is going to change like when you are in team, every month that requirement is going to change.
Okay.
So this is the reason Agile is so flexible, right? You are up for failure first so that you fail fast and then you learn something and then you implement that in the market even faster. If you don't experiment, you will not be able to get to where you want to be. So Agile is a good place for experimenting again and again.
Got it.
So, and let me.
Good.
Okay, so it's like if you have a manager who tells you your task is to clean up the public restroom, or a manager who sings in detail. Yep, it is like that. You said it very nicely. I would not say nicely, but yeah, that is how it works. It all depends on your manager, what your manager wants you to do. Ultimately, it's not the company that is paying you; it's the manager that is paying you. And your first thing is to make sure that your manager's expectation is has met, no matter what. And I used to think that it used to happen only in Asia, where you have to do everything that your manager says. But I think I've come to a realization a few years ago that in US, it's even more than what we have in Asian countries. So over here, it's very different. It's not that you try to do muska polish to someone, right? The way it works is very different. Your manager says, hey, I have a task and I need these things to be done. So you will suddenly see there are 10 people in your company, they will all jump on it. Hey, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. Right? And there is no one who's going to oppose. Everyone is going to say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And if they, like, there are 10 people saying I can do this, and if one person says that, hey, why are we asking this? Why I cannot do this? What is going to happen to that one person? So that is the reality. I think in my last 12 years, I think I always thought that in US, work culture is very different than Asian countries, where you don't really have to go by your boss's decision every day or every time. But over here, it's to a next level where you are forced to do something because there are like so many other volunteers waiting to take that opportunity. And if they take those opportunities, then you are always behind. So you will just get stuck in your career. And people make choices, right? Some people are happy with it, some people are not happy with it, some people change the company, but whatever they do, this thing is not going to change. More higher you go in the hierarchy anywhere, not in IT, anywhere, higher you go, you have to make sure that your boss just tells you one line, and that one line you execute that one line, and you go and find everything on your own. Nobody's going to spoon feed you. Nobody's going to teach you on how to do things as you go higher in the role. So when you start your first project or second project, it may not be at that level, but I think after your 4 or 5 years of real experience, you may see yourself in that shoe, and you will be comfortable with it. So, but I'm just telling you that in US also things like this happens, and especially you will be surprised if you are at Google, Microsoft, or Apple. The moment if your boss sends you a request at 2 a.m. in the night, hey, I need something like this done by tomorrow in like few hours from now, there will be like 50 requests. 50 Googleites will send a response to their boss, hey, I'm up, I can do this right now. So it's a crazy race and a bitter reality, but I think it happens at every company. When your boss says something, you want to make sure that you don't make him look bad. That is the first thing. You can have disagreements with your boss, and there's nothing wrong with this approach, right? You can have disagreements with your boss, but at the end of the day, you cannot make him look bad. If you make him look bad, then you're gone. And that is the worst thing you could do to your boss. And there is a saying in IT, it's okay to disagree with people, but the moment you walk out of your room, of the meeting room, no matter what your decision was, you have to support the decision that was made in that room. And if you cannot do that, then you're going to create problems for yourself. So just remember this. It's a hard lesson I learned after 7 years of my life. I just wanted to share this with you all. I learned this a few years ago. So if you do not agree with someone, it's okay. But if a decision is made, now you have to support that decision when you walk out of that room, without having any grief or without having any emotions attached to it. Okay. Let's move with the next user story for mortgage project. So for mortgage project, if you guys remember, we were talking about Bank of America's website. So Bank of America's website, you go here. So whatever you see in Bank of America's website, our goal was that Academy Mortgage should do something like that. Correct? So we are going to write user stories on this one today. I'll quickly walk you through what those user stories are looking like. And I will also send you a BRD that I've written for this page. And you guys can read through them and let me know if you have any questions on that. So as a customer, this is the first one, and it is for, assume this does not exist. It is only for this section. Okay. So as a customer, I want to make sure that mortgage homepage allows me to view promotional interest rate, APR, points, and monthly payment. Rate, APR, points, and monthly payment. So that I'm aware of the lowest interest that I could be qualifying for based on my credit history. And if you see here, they've called out here in the disclaimer, this is for credit score 740 or higher. So if I would know if my credit score is 740 or higher, I can possibly get these numbers for my mortgage. So the acceptance criteria goes this way. Validate. I'm calling this as quick rates portlet, or you can call this as the promotional rates table, whatever you want to call, right? So, but just assume that this is just the name. It's just a label. Validate that quick rates portlet will display rates for 4 mortgage products in the sequence listed below. 1, 2, 3, and there will be one more, which will be 5-1 jumbo arm, which is not listed here. So if you see here, fixed and arm, there is a difference between fixed and arm. What is arm? I'll click on this. It will tell me. Called variable mortgage, and let's see this. Your monthly payment may fluctuate as a result of any interest rate changes, and the lender may change. I'll just give you a summary of this, right? What it looks like. So when you are going with the loan for 30-year fixed, right now the mortgage interest rates are so low. I think they're offering up to 2.25 something or 2.5%. your interest rate will not change for 30 years or throughout the life of your loan. It will still remain 2.25. Doesn't matter market rates are going up or down, it doesn't matter. When you say 5-1 ARM variable, this is something that you opt that after 5 years, if market rates have changed drastically, then your interest rate can go 1% up or 1% down, depending on the market interest rate. So it's called variable interest rate. And over here, we are offering 4 products: 30-year fixed, 15-year fixed, 5-1 ARM, and 5-1 jumbo ARM. Jumbo means any loan which is more than $417,000 in US. Okay, in California, I think it's more than $450,000, but in all of the states, it's more than $417,000. It's called jumbo loans, and you will get this jargons and this information from your product manager or subject matter expert. When you will start your project, you have to ask these questions: hey, what is rate? What is APR? What is point? What is fixed? What is ARM? You have to ask all these questions to them, and they will explain you what these things are. Next, validate that Quick Rates Portlet will display superscript text with the product label to notify a consumer about the relevant disclosure. So over here, they have not given here, like there will be a label like 1, 2, 3, something like that. On the top, you see this asterisk. This asterisk is for this disclaimer. So you can make that asterisk clickable if you want to, or you can put the superscript here only for 30-year fixed. You can click on it. It will take you to that particular terms and conditions directly. So you can make it that way if you want to. When someone sues you in court for giving false information on the page, you can tell them, hey, our superscripts are clickable. When you click on it, it takes you to the disclaimer directly. Why didn't you check that? It boosts your case and your chances of winning is more higher. But if you do not have that link clickable and this disclosure is all the way at the bottom of the page, then consumers can fight with you on that. That, hey, your information was so at the bottom of the page. Why would you, are you expecting us to look at that information? Are you kidding? But now you have a way. Hey, before even you scroll further, there is a disclaimer. So these things have been evolved in last 10 years. After like a lot of lawsuits, companies have found different ways to handle disclaimers at different places in website now, as opposed to everything at the bottom. So that's the second acceptance criteria. Third one is validate that superscripts are clickable, which we just talked about. Now, this is another one. Validate that solution will ensure Quick Rates Portlet that is presented shows current rates that are associated with each product. So this is for rates, this is for APR, this is for points, and this is for monthly payment. So I have 4 statements saying that rates will be displayed for all of this product, APR will be displayed for all of this product, likewise points, and likewise monthly payment. There will be a timestamp. So this rate gets updated every day or every few days. So there has to be a timestamp. So over here, this timestamp is 26th of March. Last week when we were discussing this, it was 20th of March. Today it is 26th of March and 8:47 a.m. Central Daylight Time. You see this? This needs to be provided from legal perspective. There could be a link provided for additional mortgage rates. You just click on that link. It will show you more than 4 products and more information if you want to, if your company offers that. Now, validate that if a customer selects, so this is for mortgage. If I click on refinance, what happens? Refinance is out of scope for this project, but I'm just giving you an example. Same thing. For refinance also, the same story applies here. The calculation is going to be different, but everything else is same here. Do you see this? But refinance is out of question for us right now, so I'm not too worried about that. It's a different project, different product. And you have to attach the mock-up of this view, put it here. From there, your development team will take this mock-up and start developing this to make something like this, what exists in Bank of America today. Cool? Are we good? This is again the same thing, exact same story. Haven't changed anything here. Any questions, guys? I'm going to cover one more user story and then we'll switch to another topic for Agile today. So, and I'm going to send you a detailed BRD on this one, so you exactly know what kind of information we have to capture in BRD. And in a lot of times, all you have to do is just copy that information and create your own user story from there. So we're going to cover one more user story. Wherever you read SunTrust Bank in this document, assume that's Academy Mortgage. Few years back when I was creating this user story, it was SunTrust Bank that had a really bad website, but now it's Academy Mortgage. So just use Academy Mortgage as the example here. Wherever you read SunTrust Bank, it means it's Academy Mortgage project for our class. I really wanted to understand this story now. When you click on apply now, this is a very important story. If you know how to write this one story, you'll know 1,000 more stories to write, because anywhere where you work, there will be a form that a user is filling or that a client is filling, or a form is being filled on its own without customers letting know. But there is a form that is going to come up. So I'll walk you through that, what that form looks like. So this is what the form looks like. Right, in this form, what you see now, how many fields we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. We have about 18 fields on the front end. Front end is everything that user is seeing here. Okay, so the story goes this way. Contact form shall be provided on the hero banner so that customers can submit their information in order to be contacted. So in Bank of America, what they had done was, they've given this as apply now. There are two options. Either you can just put a button here, or you can put a form here inside this box. So for this story, I've assumed there is a form here within the box. Okay. It could be done two different ways. You can have this button here, or you can have an entire form here. So contact form, this is called contact form. Contact form shall be provided on the hero banner so that customers can submit their information in order to be contacted. Contact form shall have header and one-liner to inform customers that they can submit the contact form. Of course, just like something like this. Pleased to meet you, and tell us something about yourself. So it lets them know that this form is going to get submitted to our loan officer. These are the fields contact form will have. So contact form shall have following fields in the order. I'm calling out the exact order shown below. First name, last name, suffix, email, phone number, loan type, zip code, US military, are you a US citizen? All these questions will be asked here. And from these fields, these are mandatory fields. Mandatory fields as in, it will have an asterisk, or that information needs to be provided by a customer. Otherwise, they will not be able to submit this form. So let's find out what fields are mandatory in this. So you see, suffix is not mandatory, but everything, suffix is not mandatory. Middle name is not mandatory. Rest everything is mandatory here. This is also not mandatory. Country of residence, and please tell us your citizen status. These two things are not mandatory as well. And are you working with the Bank of America lending officer? Yes or no. So about 5 or 6 fields, do you have any dependents, is not mandatory field. About 6 fields from this form is not mandatory. And rest everything is mandatory, right? So we need to call them list of fields which are not mandatory. Sorry, list of fields which are mandatory. We call them out here. Why? Because for each of this field, there will be an error message like this. So we need to create mockups with this exact error messages. These error messages will be confirmed by our legal team. But we have to, you see this, it says your legal name. Can someone tell me why it says your legal name?
It has to match to your ID that you provide.
Why but?
Otherwise, how will you establish that it's the same person?
Yes.
Like, right?
So like people go by different names. You will go with your name on your passport or on your driver's license, and then only you will be granted this mortgage. Otherwise, you will not be. Right? You cannot apply on someone else's name and get the mortgage for your own sake. That is not how it works. So you want to provide legal name. This is true only for financial industries. If it is or healthcare industry. But if it is for something else, they would not say legal name. They will just say first name and last name here, and that's it. So goal is to find out. Let's go further. Customer shall see an error message for all these fields. Customer shall see an error message when he or she has provided invalid values for one of these fields. What is invalid values? I cannot type here 1, 2, 3, 4 and move out of this field, assuming this is the right name. This is not a name, right? Names cannot be with the alphabets. Sorry, names cannot be with the letters. Likewise, phone number cannot be with alphabets. It is not even letting me type A. Right? So we need to have error messages for each of these fields. Customer shall be able to submit the contact information once all conditions are satisfied, which means all these error messages have been cleared out and customers have given us a valid information. Then only customer can click on save and move forward in the application. In the loan type field, we have these drop downs here, right? If you see, this is a drop down, this is a drop down. For each of these drop down, we need to provide the values. What values we are going to have under this drop down. So under this state, country, how many countries we are going to show, which countries. Now you can submit a contact information from any country, but you're not going to go offer loan in any country, right? Bank of America offers mortgage only in US. Then other countries is just a waste of my time. Am I right? Why should I even call the customer if they're not from US? So there are some business rules that you'll have to check with your client. But over here, I'm assuming Bank of America offers mortgage in more than one location. And it could be the reason they're asking for country of residence. Or this could be associated with this question where if you're not US citizen, then what country you're a citizen of? It could be around that. So bottom line is whenever there is a drop down or there is a radio button, this is the radio button, or there is a checkbox, you need to provide exact number of values for each of those fields here. So this is one example. That loan type field should have these 3 options in the drop down option. First time home buyer, refinance a home, or refinance without cash out. If a customer provides out of the footprint zip code, footprint is, I think we discussed this in our last class. What is footprint? If as a bank, you are supporting 20 states out of 50 states in United States, then those 20 states will become footprint states. Another 30 will become out of footprint states. So if someone provides a zip code, which is not in that footprint, then it should display an error message that, hey, we are not serving in this area. Customer shall see a thank you message when this information is submitted successfully after clicking on save. Customer shall see a thank you message, shall receive a thank you message on their email as soon as they've submitted their contact information. Contact form should be reusable widget. If I want to use this widget anywhere else on the same page or a different page, I can do this. So what I'm saying is, currently on Bank of America, over here, I have the page, I have the section here, but I also want to display that same contact form when someone goes to home equity. I also want to show that same contact form here. So I don't want developers to code everything for me again. I want to create a component which they can literally use this component, copy and paste it on this page and it will start working. So I just put an acceptance criteria around that. Reusable widget is what we call in IT terms, reusable widget. If I want to use this widget anywhere else on the same page or a different page, then I can do that. Contact form should be responsive in nature, of course. If a customer is viewing this on iPhone, Android, tablet, or any other small screen versus big screen, it should automatically do those things and have to provide those mockups for those screens. So this is another story on the same project. Customer portal.
When you say reusable widget, does that mean it'll be on like multiple pages at a time?
It's multiple pages.
And who decides which page?
Business owner, your subject matter expert, or a product manager in Agile world.
Okay.
So this is another example. But if you see, when I will share the BRD with you, I have covered the exact same information there in BRD, but I've gone into this level of detail because, again, I'm repeating this. Although in Agile, it is not expected you to write detailed stories. When you start your first project in any company, doesn't matter how many years of experience you have, your first 1 month, you have to provide these details to do a favor to your own self. Because if you don't get into these details, you will never understand the product. If you cannot understand the product, you will never able to guide the team. Gathering this information will help you understand the product, and then you don't need to get into these details because you understand product really well, and you know you can handle things on your own. Okay. So any questions on user stories?
And one last thing on the reusable widget. I thought that would be our job because we're kind of looking at from the user's perspective, right?
So you may see that your business owner has not called out it's a reusable widget. So you can ask him, hey, do you want to make this as a reusable widget? If he or she says yes, then you have to put that as the acceptance criteria and find out on what other pages you want to show it. So this is going to require some additional development work to make it reusable. And if that means that this project is supposed to deliver in 4 weeks, now it can deliver in 5 weeks. Is your business owner okay with it or not? You have to find out that, because that is a trade-off, right? You're going to put more time in this now. Your development team is going to put more time on this now. Cool. And I have some other e-commerce related user stories on this. It's not part of this class, but feel free to refer these stories at your own leisure. And I think it will be, it's pretty interesting. We've covered like 6 or 7 stories on the e-commerce project. E-commerce project is not part of this class, but again, you guys can still read this information if you want to. And it's just going to help you. Cool. I'll give you guys a break and we'll start talking about the Scrum Master role in the Scrum ceremonies for a product owner and a Scrum Master in Agile environment. And I believe we have a few more topics left, which we're going to cover again, from the testing perspective and some other generic topics about change request and issue management and all those things. So we have still a lot more things to cover. But if you guys have understood everything until the end of the class today, I can say you guys will be ready for your interview. About 60%, you will be ready for your interview if you understand everything that we covered in the class so far today. And in the remaining classes, you'll see that bar being pushed from 60% to about 80%. And the additional 20%, as I said in the class before, there are a couple of topics, which is functional requirements document and APIs, like when we talk with development team. Those 2 topics are a little more complex. You will not understand those 2 topics before understanding this entire class. And I'm going to share those videos with you. I think each video is for about 3 hours. And we don't have to wait to get that understanding. We can start applying for our jobs. We can start preparing our resumes and preparing for the interviews. And those 2 videos can be seen in parallel. It's not a showstopper for you to start performing. And again, I'm following the same approach that we do in the company. I want you to invest your 20% of your effort to get 80% success. And remaining 20% that the work that we have to do, that can happen in parallel. Okay. So let's take a quick break and we'll start talking about the different types of meeting in Scrum and what is the Scrum Master role in that. It's 11:26. I think we'll be back in 5 minutes. Hey, you guys there?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, let's look at the different type of Scrum ceremonies. Guys, I really want you guys to remember these user stories, and it it is common for someone to put you on the spot and ask for an example of a user story that you've written in the past. So you can literally use this information and say that this is one of the user stories I've worked on, or you can say that let me give you an example, right? And just say this is the example. And we'll talk about the credit card payments. This is what I would capture in the user story. Okay. Can you all still see my screen? Excel sheet.
Yes.
Okay. So today we are going to cover Scrum Master related responsibilities and different type of meetings that happen in Agile and who are involved in that meeting and what happens. Okay. So over here, this is the different types of meeting in Agile. Sorry, not this. This is the different type of meeting in Agile. And this is the frequency of that meeting. And these are who involved in that meeting. And this is who leads the meeting. Okay. And I just called out which meeting happens before the sprint and which meeting happens within the sprint. So we'll start with the wish list or brainstorming session. Meeting frequency. Okay, so this column is only for waterfall. In waterfall, what is the similar meeting that happens in Agile? It's just a comparison of that. Okay, so this is the first meeting that happens, and it happens in this order. Okay, meetings happens in this order that you see here. So first is wish list or brainstorming session. That is product manager. It is led by product manager or subject matter expert or a product owner. Okay, this is over here. Product owner is optional. He may be there, he may not be there. The people involved in this are product owner, marketing, legal, some other stakeholders or departments, product manager, tech lead, and SMEs. These are the stakeholders involved in this meeting. And this meeting usually happens before the sprint, as you all know. And this happens once a quarter, most likely. And this is called wish list. We have done this like in detail in our last to last class. All we are doing here is coming up with the list of ideas, categorizing them into epics and features, right? That's all we do in this meeting. And this is like 8 hours long meeting where you go back and forth on, like you have hundreds of ideas, you try to categorize them into epics and features, identify their dependencies, and come up with a really good understanding on what our small MVP, minimal viable product, should look like. That's the goal of this. This is the second meeting is product backlog prioritization. This meeting, and again, guys, if you are in an Agile environment, if you are in a true Agile environment, you would see all these meetings. Okay. If you're not in a true Agile environment, you may see some meetings from this and some meetings may not be there. So over here, the second meeting is product backlog prioritization meeting. This happens during product backlog every 2 to 3 weeks, again, before the sprint starts. This is where we discussed, we identify the dependencies for each story, and we prioritize which epics or which features should go live as part of our MVP, minimal viable product. So we meet every 2 to 3 weeks, and if these are the steps, right? Just so that you can put things in perspective. So wish list is this. This is what we do in wish list. This is what we do in product backlog prioritization. identify dependencies, and prioritize epics and features. This is where your true role starts. And this meeting is led by either a product owner or a Scrum Master. And we'll talk about Scrum Master in more detail today. But this is where a real product owner or a BA job starts here. So in pre-grooming and grooming session, you will be doing this every week. Every week, there will be a couple of pre-grooming sessions and couple of grooming sessions. In this meeting, all you do is, so pre-grooming is different than grooming session. In pre-grooming, product owner or a business analyst works with product manager or a Scrum Master, subject matter expert. This SME is subject matter expert. If BA is leading this meeting, then he can also consult with PO. If PO is leading this meeting, then he has to consult with product manager and SMEs. This is the hierarchy: product manager, product owner, and BA. BA always talks to product owner always talks to product manager. Remember this. Okay. So in this meeting, all they're going to do is whatever user stories we have created, part of that user stories we will discuss in that. What kind of acceptance criteria we need to put in that story? What kind of user stories we need to have? We put all that information in the story, and only after PO and product manager agrees that the user story looks good, whatever we have written in these user stories, if it looks good to both of them, only after that they will discuss that story in grooming session. In grooming session, you usually have your entire agile team, which is product owner, business analyst, Scrum Master, developer, designer, and QA. So whatever discussion has happened between product owner and a product manager, now for those stories, we'll be discussing it with the team, and team will tell us whether the stories are right or wrong, whether they need any additional information or not. If they feel this is like twice a week, this is also twice a week, most likely. Okay, in a really aggressive environment, you will have to have these 2 meetings and these 2 meetings. There is no escape from that. You can probably skip 1 or 2 meetings if you want to, but you want to really be organized around these 2 meetings. Because if you're not organized, your team will not get feed in time with the user stories, and they will slack after that. So you really want to attend these 2 meetings in a really, really punctual manner and do your due diligence before you go to the team and discuss those stories. So again, in pre-grooming stories, your goal is to come up with this acceptance criteria along with your along with the product manager, and agree that this is what we're going to share with the team. So you need to first get approvals from your product manager. Second is, when you discuss this with your entire team, they will have some questions, and they will assign story points. Story points are assigned in the Fibonacci series. This is an interview question. How do you assign story points? Story points are always assigned in this way: 1, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21. Okay, this is a Fibonacci series, and we just need to remember this. This is the thumb rule that whenever any story is being created, if we want to call out that how long that story is going to take or how big that story is, we always give story points to that. And this is for the complexity, and it includes both complexity of the functionality plus the amount of hours it is going to take. So just to give you some generic comparison, 1 story point means 4 development hours and 4 QA hours, up to 4 development hours and 4 QA hours. 3 is like up to 12 development hours and up to 12 QA hours. This is the example you can give in your interview. You can say that this is how it was in the past project. Every company is different and every team is different. But based on my knowledge, this is what we have done for our team. We had come up with some rules that, hey, 1 story points means 4 development hours and 4 QA hours, or anything less than 8 hours is 1 story point for the entire team, because development and QA is part of one team, right? So less than 8 hours is 1 point, less than 24 hours is 3 points, less than 50 hours is 5 points, and less than 70 hours is 8 points.
Is this BA's job to assign the story point?
BA will ask team what is the story point. Development team and QA team will give the story points because they are the ones who are going to do this work. A person who is going to work on this story, write this story, code this story and test this story has to assign the story points. BA's job is to ask them how many story points would that be. and question them when it looks like that things that could take only 4 hours and they're saying 5 points. Hey, why are you thinking it will take 25 hours? You need to question them. Or if QA says it is 25 hours and development says it is 4 hours, we need to talk to them and find out, hey, why do you guys think differently? May I know? And they will come to consensus, and whatever number of hours you decide, based on that, you will assign the story points. But this is the only way you assign story points in Agile. There is no other way. I think I've worked for about 60 teams now, 60. I have not seen anyone doing anything other than this. This is called Fibonacci series. 13 and 20 is super high. Usually when a story is up to 13 points or 21 points, you want to break that story into multiple stories. Even at the level of 8, you might want to break that story into 5 plus 3 so that 2 different developers can work on it. So 8 is too high. Like we work on small functionality, small user stories in Agile. So up to 5 is okay. Anything above 5, if there is an 8 point on any story, try to break that story into 2 stories.
Would it be our job to break that up?
We need to ask team, hey, 8 points seems too high. Do you think we should break this into 2 stories? If they say yes, so what you do is you create 2 stories, remove the acceptance criteria from one story, portion of acceptance criteria, and copy and paste that in the second story. And you divide that as 5 and 3, whatever makes more sense. Team will help you decide that, whatever. So this story points, the way you break the stories, this is all to help development team and testing team to do their work. So they are the gurus here. They can tell you how they want things to be done. All you have to do is just follow their guidance and do it, make it happen. Don't question them. Hey, why do you want to break this in 2 stories? Don't question that. If they say you want to 2 stories, cool, go ahead. You are the one who's doing this job. If it makes you happy, let's go this way. Do not fight with them.
Yeah, that was going to be my second question.
Yeah, don't fight with them. Unless you really feel there is something that if like breaking into 2 stories can really cause some challenges or your intent itself will not satisfy, then you can bring that up. But let them make the decision because they are the ones who are going to rule the story, develop the story and test it. Whatever makes them comfortable, go with that. Your goal is to make sure you get both the stories done in time. Right? That's what you should be concerned about. So as a PO or a BA, this is your, so usually if you have both PO and BA in companies, pre-groomings will be done here at this level by PO. PO will be doing the pre-grooming sessions and BA will be leading the grooming sessions. If you have both PO and BA in your company. If you just have one person, then PO and BA both has to do this. PO has to take care of both the meetings. Grooming sessions are more technical in nature, where people can, like there are development members involved, right? So they may have some technical questions there. And sometimes if you have a BA, then you don't want to get into that level of detail. BA can take care of that. PO doesn't have to. But if there is no BA, then you have to get into that meeting and work with them. So usually I would assume chances are very high that you will not have a BA. You will be part of both of these meetings. And which is good because when you have both PO and BA in one group, there are a lot of challenges that arises. So it's good to just have one role and not 2 different roles. So this is what your role is. This meeting will be for an hour or 90 minutes. This pre-grooming session will be for 30 minutes, most likely 30 minutes, 2 times a week. This is for hour or hour and a half and 2 times a week. This is how it usually functions. So now you would see like what we do this. So whatever you did there, right? This thing, you will, if you're in that company for 1 year, every week you're going to do this. Every week. So it becomes super monotonous. The only difference is that you're working on a different user story now. And every week you're going to do this. So it takes a toll out of a person because after all, we are all humans, right? We can't be so monotonous. But that is the reality of Agile. And what will keep you up is the different type of stories and different type of projects, so that you are thinking different, you are challenging yourself to do things differently. And your team members will change every now and then. Somebody's being hired, somebody's being fired, and things will just change around. So it will change your dynamics of your team. So constantly you work with people issues, you work with new projects, you work with less certain projects and try to add more clarity to that. That will keep you up and running for the entire year. But your core responsibility will not change. Your core responsibility is that half of your week's time you'll spend in these 2 meetings, preparing for this meeting or in this meeting. half of your day time in 1 week will go towards this. So if you're working for 40 hours, 20 hours is assigned to this for a product owner or a BA role. Are we good? And again, this is all that happens before the sprint starts. When I say before sprint starts for development. Sprint is always considered when there will be development and testing done. So before sprint starts, we need to take care of all those things. And then these are the meetings we will have within the sprint. And we're going to talk about that. And that's where the Scrum Master plays a major role. Scrum Master can lead this meeting to identify dependencies and prioritize epics or features. So I've called it as product owner or Scrum Master. Anybody can lead this meeting. Depending on your company, you may find yourself or a Scrum Master leading this meeting. Okay, any questions so far until now? So what this looks like in Waterfall. In Waterfall, the first wish list was business case review. Product backlog prioritization is more like a scope review. In pre-grooming is more like requirements gathering session in Waterfall. Grooming sessions are more like requirements review session with everyone. These are the close alley of agile meetings in Waterfall. This is what you would see, something on these lines you will see in Waterfall. Okay. And again, in requirement gathering session, what do? You try to capture BRD and FRD after working with your subject matter expert. Once you have BRD and FRD written, you will review that BRD and FRD in this requirements review session with all the larger stakeholder audience, which will have legal, marketing, your technical lead, and all those people, right? This is what you do here. And this is what you do in Agile. This is what, if we are getting paid $100,000 a year, $50,000 is for these two lines. Make sense? Give me 1 minute. Hello. Hey guys, sorry. So 50,000 is what you are getting paid per year for these two things only. Row number 120 and 121. Whether it's Waterfall or whether it's Agile, it doesn't matter. This is your core row. This is the heart of a BA. And what we do here, we create BRDs, we create FRDs, we create user journeys, mockups, wireframes, and we create user stories. This is the heart of a BA. Okay. Hence, we have focused heavily on these two things a lot in the class, and we are doing this for 3 different projects. So you know how to write these BRDs and user stories. We'll move to the within the sprint related items now. So within the sprint, there are several more meetings. It starts with sprint planning. I'm going in this order, okay, guys? This meeting happens in this order. So sprint planning can happen on the first day of the sprint in the morning. So which means if my sprint 2A is starting today in the first thing in the morning, I will have sprint planning with my team for a couple of hours. Or I can have sprint planning at the end of 1B. Like when my day is ending yesterday, I'll have 2 hours long meeting. Could be that, or could be next day, which is like my first day of the sprint. It could be any of those, depending on your team, depending on your time frame. As part of that meeting, what you do is, remember in Azure Dev Board, we looked at the number of stories. So you have list of stories there, about 20-25 stories. So as a product owner, what you do is you rank those stories. This is first, this is second, this is third, this is fourth, this is fifth. So if there are 25 stories, you rank them or you arrange them in the right order by dragging and dropping them. There's a drag and drop functionality available within Azure DevOps. You just move around them. You put that in the right order. And team is literally going to do 2 things there. They're going to look at those 25 stories. Because they've assigned story points, now they're going to assign actual task, development task and quality analyst task for those stories. You will not do anything here. It's all on development team and testing team. Your role in sprint planning is to make sure you give them that right priority of the story, which you will have to work with your product manager to find out. Okay, or your business owner, product manager or business owner. They will give you what is the right priority for this sprint. If there are 25 items, this is the right sequence of them. Once you give that, you are free. Development team will take 2 hours. They will go under each story. They will add their development task and assign hours. For this task, I'll take 2 hours. For this task, I'll take 5 hours. For this task, I'll take 10 hours. Likewise, QA will do the same thing. For this task, this many hours. For this task, this many hours. It will take them one to 1.5 hours to go through all the stories and do that. At the end of everything, what is going to happen? It will say for 25 stories, it's going to take 200 development hours and 200 quality analyst hours. So how many people we have in the team? How much capacity we have? So if we have, what we said was, we have how many people? 4 developers, 2 or 1 QA usually, 1 QA, 1 PO, 1 BA, and half Scrum Master. This is usually what a team makes up of. Okay. So for 4 developers, they all work for 8 hours a day. So 8 hours a day, which is 40 hours a week. So if a sprint is of 2 weeks, So 8 hours a day and 10 days is what they're going to work on, right? Equals 80 hours times 4 developers, which means 320 hours is what you're going to have. Am I right? Making sense? Simple math. If there are 4 people working in your team, 4 development team members, they all are going to work for 80 hours in 2 weeks. So if you have 4 developers, they're going to put in 320 hours. For 1 QA, it will be only 80 hours. For PO, BA, we don't count this. For Scrum Master, we don't count this because we are preparing them to work in the sprint. But when the sprint starts, they run the show. Before sprint, we run the show. After sprint starts, they run the show. So we don't take our hours here. It's not that important. So now when you have 25 stories in the backlog and you have come up with that, hey, it will be taking 250 development hours and about 120 QA hours. So now you clearly see that development team can do all this work, but QA may not be, because QA just has 80 hours and there is additional 40 hours of work which will be not done in this sprint. So which means you go back in the backlog and you assign those stories that you say that you know that those stories may not get complete in the sprint because it will not be tested since QA does not have a capacity. So testing for those stories will go to the next sprint. Am I making sense? This is all that happens in sprint planning, and Scrum Master's job is to make sure. Scrum Master's responsibility here is three things. What is the responsibility? Ensures all stories are prioritized and story pointed. Story pointed means it is groomed here, right? That's when we story point them. Second feature is all dev and QA tasks are added for each story. And third is compare the number of hours, number of total available hours versus total hours of work. This is what you do as a Scrum Master. This is your role. Make sense? This is one of your major role as a Scrum Master. This is one of your major role. Again, you don't have to do anything here. You are just creating a meeting or sending out the meeting invite so that these people can do these things. So you will send the agenda. In this agenda, this is what you will put in. All stories are prioritized and story pointed. All development and QA tasks are added for each story, and compare the total number of hours available versus the hours of work. This is what Scrum Master do. Okay. And this is the capacity here. This is how you calculate the capacity of the entire team. This is the number of hours available, and this is the amount of hours it's going to take to work. You need to compare them. Of course, if the hours are more, you try to be at 90%. So if you don't try to burn all 320 hours, you try to be around 300 hours and 70 hours here. So it gives you some time. If something unknown comes in the sprint, you're able to handle that. So you try to commit only for this many hours. Everything other than that, it will be going to the next sprint. If this is for 2A, other stories at the bottom of the sprint will be moved to 2B because we don't have capacity to work on those stories this sprint. Is it making sense now? Are we good? Silence always means that you guys are following me. Can I assume that?
No, not this time.
Yeah. So
There's a lot of information.
what is the question? What is the question?
I think just move on. I'm gonna review the video after you post it on.
Okay. Anyone else has any other question? Imagine that you guys are arranging a wedding for someone, right? When you arrange a wedding, what all things you want to do now? So first of all, you want to find out the list of guests, and you'll have some buffer there, right? If you have invited 500 people, there may be 520 people that may come in. So when you order food for them, you want to make sure that the food is ordered for 520 people, not 500, just to cover that buffer, right? It's a fallback plan. If 20 people come up, additional 20 people will come up, they at least have a food to eat. What are the priorities for the wedding day? So you have several list of items that you have to prepare, and you will find out who's going to do what, right? So you literally write down, when you are organizing a wedding for someone, every single task that has been required to be done on the wedding day, and you will divide who is going to do what task. If you run out of people, hey, there are so many tasks, I've already assigned this task to this people, they are overbooked now. Now what should I do with the remaining tasks? Right? Should I hire more people, or should I let go these tasks, or should I continue about this after the wedding day? Of course, if it's a wedding celebration, it is not going to make sense after wedding, right? So either you have to have more people, or you just let these things go. Those are the only two options you have. But in reality, when you're working in sprint, you have an option where you can push those uncompleted tasks or untouched tasks to the next sprint. And how you come to that decision is by letting every single member of a team put their hours, that this is how long I'm thinking it will take for me to complete this story. And then you just compare, if it is going to take 200 hours, and if I have only 100 hours, there is something wrong. I need to move some stories around. That's all you're doing as a Scrum Master in this. And role of a PO is super simple. You just create prioritized list of stories. All the stories that you have groomed. So if I have this one long document, Word document, I'll just go ahead and rank them. This is first story, this is second, this is third, this is fourth. So that team knows when there is no capacity available, whatever is at the bottom can be moved out. But top stories we need to complete no matter what. That is at a high level, this is what you're supposed to do here. Okay. If you still have any questions, I can still discuss that if you bring it up. If not, I can move forward. Let me know. Okay, can I move forward then?
Yes.
Cool. The second meeting is right. So when the sprint planning happens, so now team has locked the scope that for this next 2 weeks, this is what we're going to focus on. This is what we're going to work on. And now once you lock, that's called sprint commitment. Okay, that's called sprint commitment. Once you lock the story, once you lock the scope of this 2 weeks, now you're working like an army. You are on your toe. If you guys remember that exercise that we did, when you write one after another's name, we were so occupied, right? Like this is exactly how it is going to work in the company. You are working, and you do not have time to think about anything else, because this time runs by really, really fast and people are waiting for you. So If there are 20 stories, remember that 20 stories is not just your task. QA has to finish their task as well. So you want to do these 20 stories in a way where QA will get time to test the stories as well. And you will get time to fix the bugs. So just imagine how fast it will be, right? Again, nothing for you to worry. It's all between development and QA team members. All you are doing here is give them support, give them moral support. If they feel they are being overwhelmed or there is too much work for them, just console them. Hey, I know this is too much, but I wish I could help you. Agile works this way. Just give them this condolence and just tell them, hey, it's all good. Don't worry about it. I'm there with you. Be patient. Don't try to get into a fight. Don't try to scare them. Your job is to motivate them. Hey, if there is anything I can help you with, let me know. Try to be a good person and try to help them out, right? What's going to happen every day in the morning? I've seen this in two different ways. Either every day in the morning or every day in the evening, there is a meeting called daily stand-up or Scrum meetings. Purpose of this meeting is extremely simple. All you do here is, what did I do yesterday? So every person, this is called stand-up meeting because when you are in the stand-up room, literally everyone is standing up. Nobody is sitting. The reason is because the moment you sit, people try to take more time to speak things and they will just take the meetings in a different direction. The goal of this meeting is to quickly check on what you worked on yesterday, what are you working on today, if there is something blocking you. That is all you do. So it will give you 30 seconds. Everyone has 30 seconds to speak. So this is how I will say. In last class, we talked about the different responsibilities between business analyst, product owner, and scrum master. And we also looked at the agile overview. The goal for today is to make sure that we cover the detailed user stories, understand different type of scrum ceremonies that happens. And the blocker is that I don't have people who are participating in the class really well. So I don't know whether they're following everything or they're not. Just as an example. This is all I had to say. Every day in the morning, I'm going to repeat this thing. Every day for some or the other stories. This is all I'm going to say. So Scrum Master facilitates this meeting. Every day in the morning, Scrum Master will, if there is a blocker that you've called out, it's Scrum Master's responsibility to remove that blocker, either by contacting that person or that team and getting things done. Any questions? Over here, you are also expected to provide your update, but you will not talk about the stories that they're working on. You will probably talk about the future stories. Because remember, when development and QA team members are working on the stories that you've given to them, you are preparing for future sprints, right? So when they are in 2A, they're working on this story, you are preparing stories for 2B, correct? So you will give update for those stories. Hey, I'm working on these 3 stories and I'm looking forward to groom them today, or I have pre-grooming sessions and I'll be doing the user acceptance testing and that's it. So you give similar updates. So you give a similar update every single day. So now you see, if you learn how to work in Agile, and if you are able to sustain first 2 week cycle or two 2 week cycle, your job is exact same job every single day for as long as you're with the company. But it is super fast. So you need to keep up with it. You need to think fast. You need to write things fast. You need to talk to people. And it's we can't even imagine that many things can go wrong here. And every company, every team is different, right? But whatever we are covering in the class, if you follow this structure and these norms, 50% of your challenge will be easily solved. Additional 50% we can't imagine right now what could go wrong and what could not. So again, this meeting is led by Scrum Master. Any questions on this? And all team members are participant in this, so which is this exact group that we had above will be participating here. And this meeting happens on daily basis within the sprint. Which one? This is daily. And this meeting happens once a sprint. Are we good?
Yes.
I have a question.
What, Amir?
Sorry, maybe I missed it. But in these Scrum Master meetings, which are daily, everybody's there. And how long do they last? Or a trigger?
You mean the meeting?
Yeah, when you say daily, all team members daily stand up meetings. What did I do yesterday? What today? Any roadblock?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that's an update. But what if there's no change? You don't have that meeting there.
No, you have this meeting every day in for 15 minutes.
Oh, all right, got it.
Every day.
All right.
And there has to be a change, right? If there is no change, that means you do not work on anything additional. Today you are working on story 1. Tomorrow you're going to work on story 2.
Mm-hmm.
That is the change. Or in story 2, I had completed 3 tasks yesterday, but now I'm completing additional 2 tasks today. That is still a change, right?
Yep.
So that is what you want. That is why we add tasks here. So we in the sprint, like daily stand-up, we talk about those tasks, that how many tasks are completed on daily basis. If someone says that I have completed 4 tasks yesterday and I have not completed any task today, it's a red flag. That person is not working. So people are asking you status every single day. So if there is a moment or there is a day where you are, for some personal reasons, you're not able to focus on your work, and if you didn't do something, which means you don't have anything to say in the meeting, which means people will know. They will not ask you, but they will know that you have not worked on anything today. And if this happens repetitively, 5 days or 6 days in continuation, then they are going to question you. Why are you not working enough, or why are you not making progress on these stories? Make sense?
Yep.
Because if one person slacks in this team, entire team is going to suffer. So remember, we have a goal, right? We have to deliver a minimal viable product, and every person is working towards that. So if one person does not do his or her job, then the product itself is not complete, which means you cannot go live. So once it cannot go live, there will be senior director talking to you now. Hey, why your team did not deliver this? Hey, this was the reason. Hey, now what happened after that? So all this scrutiny will start happening. And they're expecting you to be running at the same pace, at a minimum. I'm saying same pace. It could be they can expect you to excel or run faster than your previous sprint. That is the goal of Agile. You are always expected to run faster than your previous sprint. That is the goal. But if you are able to keep up with that speed, that itself is a big win. First of all, it takes months. Like usually, I've seen when you start a new team, it takes about 3 to 4 sprints to come to this level of understanding between each team members. Like this is what they have to do in the stand-up. This is how the planning meeting should be ran. Usually all these things that we talked about, these 3 things, happens in planning meeting after like 6 months. Team struggles to even meet these minimum goals. Like it is running so fast that people struggle to meet these goals. So it takes like 5 to 6 good sprints for you to be where we are talking about right now. It starts with all the processes, haphazard process, like all random process. You work together, Scrum Master works with you all, and then we finally set up these goals. So you will get some good amount of time. But if the sprint has already started, if you have joined a company where 3 or 4 sprints have already been taken care of, then you might see that these things are already in practice. But if it is starting from sprint 0, or a new team is starting, then these things will not be in practice on day 1. It will be taking months before this can be actually implemented. There are additional 2 meetings that Scrum Master has to drive. No one will be part of this meeting except Scrum Master. So there is a meeting at a department level where or at a team level, where all the Scrum Masters get together, so this is S1. This is S1 meeting. I'll call this out. This is S1. This is Scrum 1. This is Scrum 2. This is Scrum 3. Scrum 2 is all Scrum Masters of every team. So usually, if you remember, right, Scrum Master supports more than one team because the role is a very short role. They support more than one team. So if there are 20 teams in your company, there will be about 8 to 10 Scrum Masters. They all have a meeting on their own after your meeting is done, this stand-up meeting is done, there will be another meeting which is called Scrum 2, where they all get together. They provide updates to each other about what their team's progress is. Like you said, right? This is what I did yesterday. This is what I'm focusing on today. Scrum Master will say, this is what my team has done yesterday. This is what my team is doing today. And this is where my team is blocked because I need some input from one of your teams. Can you please get this done? Am I making sense? Exact same thing that you did at an individual level, Scrum Master does this at a team level. So all Scrum Masters are part of that meeting, no one else from your team. So all Scrum Masters from your department, Scrum Master leads, maybe executives. Third meeting is Scrum Master 3, Scrum 3 meeting. This is only for senior Scrum Masters or program managers. Very, very high level role. Not all Scrum Masters have to be part of this, but this is where you have, if you have 3 different departments, mortgage. So for our example, we had purchase, refinance, and home equity, right? Let's go back over here. Mortgage is a different department. Refinance is a different department. Home equity is a different department. And we have, go back over here. We have credit cards, we have savings, we have checking, so many other different teams here, right? So the goal is when you have 8 or 10 Scrum Masters, there will be 2 or 3 lead Scrum Masters whom you are reporting. Scrum Master usually reports to a higher level Scrum Master, right? Senior level Scrum Master. So only those 2 or 3 Scrum Masters will go into Scrum 3. In this meeting, they are going to talk directly to executive people, VP, director, or CTO, and provide them a daily update. Hey, this is what as a department we have achieved yesterday, and this is what we are going to achieve today, and this is what is blocking us. So you see three differences here. This is at an individual level, this is at a team level, this is at a department level. Make sense? So it's called Scrum 1, Scrum 2, and Scrum 3. So your director and your executive group wants to get daily updates from every single team, what they have worked on. Because it's an agile environment, there is a lot of scrutiny, there is a lot of micromanagement. They don't show you there is a micromanagement, but people are watching you. Right? So this is what a Scrum Master role is. And you will not be part of, if you are applying for a Scrum Master role, you will not be part of this S3 meetings. You will possibly just stop here, S2. So in your interview question, someone asks you, what is your responsibility? You drive sprint planning sessions, you drive daily stand-up or Scrum meetings, you be part of S2 meetings, and you drive the product backlog prioritization meeting. They may ask you a question, what do you do in Scrum in the planning meetings? This is what you do in planning meetings. And this is what you do. This is how you run your stand-ups. And now this is the only thing you do as a Scrum Master. There are a couple of more things that you do as a Scrum Master, but this is the only thing you do as a Scrum Master. And you keep doing this again and again, every single day. And you help team members do testing whenever required. If there is a team, someone is running behind, you try to understand that functionality and help someone test those things. Or try to, if a product owner is not available for some reason, then Scrum Master fills in for a product owner, writes a couple of stories. So because it's a very short role, Scrum Master is expected to be a little more flexible and fill in things here and there. When one of the team members is struggling to meet the expectation, Scrum Master jumps in and helps them to fill in that gap. Cool. Any question? I see pin drop silence in the class.
So the Scrum Master is expected to know the development part too?
No.
Okay.
Only developers are going to code. No one else is going to code. Otherwise, the entire system will break.
But he's expected to know the BA's part and the PO's part.
Yes.
Okay, makes sense.
See, as a manager, right? Just imagine if you are working with the labor work, or the crew members, right? And you're trying to build a house. You need to know what is expected from each person if you are a manager. If you don't know what is expected from this resource, how would you go ahead and tell him that, hey, are you doing your job or you're not doing your job? Right? So first thing is that you need to understand that what is the role for a product owner, what is the role for a BA, what is the role of a developer, and what is the role for a QA. If they're slacking, you need to tell them, hey, you are slacking now. You need to button up and you need to start working on things. You can do this only when you know what they're working on. And because product owner and BA roles are public facing roles, and so as Scrum Master, Scrum Masters can sometime fill in when a product owner is on vacation or business analyst is on vacation, then Scrum Master can do that job for them, or they can cover them for a week or two. Or it's the other way around as well, where a PO or BA is part of the team and Scrum Master is not available, then PO or BAs are expected to drive these meetings.
Gotcha.
This ones, S1, S2, and this sprint planning. PO or BAs are expected to drive this meeting in their absence.
Got
That
it.
is the main reason I've combined these 3 trainings. Right? So as a PO, BA, or Scrum Master, you have to know what is waterfall, you have to know what is Scrum, you have to know what is acceptance criteria, you have to know how to write user stories, you have to know how to write BRDs, and then only you will be successful in any of these roles. Although your functions are a little different, but without having this core knowledge, you cannot be successful in any of these roles.
So initially, when you're applying for any job, I mean, let's say you're applying for a BA or a PO, I mean, that with experience, you can even jump to a Scrum Master, you know,
Yep.
like not the first time, but with
But yes,
experience
you
with a
can.
company, because it's all about managing the whole team together.
Yep. And Scrum Master role is a highly paid role. Once you get experience for a few years as a Scrum Master, you can actually become an Agile coach. An Agile coach is like $160,000, $170,000 a year. But you have to go through several certifications. But again, this is more on people management. This is a very short role. If something happens in the company, these are the first people that will be laid off, which is Scrum Master, because either development lead or a product owner is expected to fill in that gap when Scrum Master is not available.
Got it.
But it is still a very highly demand role, Scrum Master. There are still a lot of people that gets hired, and it's a very lucrative role. But at the same time, it brings in stress because you are dealing with 10 people, and you want to make sure that they are doing their job every day. And it's a thankless job because your team is not going to like you.
Even if you try to work with them?
Yeah, it's okay. You can work with them, but if you work with them, then they're not going to do work right. You don't want to meet them where they are. You want them to meet where you are. Otherwise, the team is going to slow down.
Got it.
Right? You can do that for a sprint, for 2 sprints, for 3 sprints, for 3 months, but not after that. They have to understand that they have to up their game now, and they want to deliver more work. I can tell you this is how it goes. They start the team, business team sees that people are delivering some stuff. In 3 months or 6 months, they've delivered awesome stuff, and now they just get impatient. Hey, we did so many things in 6 months. We don't want to give you 6 months anymore. We want the same result in 1 month now. They are so excited.
Oh,
So they will
the
take
pressure
away all
keeps
this
on
cushion from you.
increasing.
Yeah, they will take up all this cushion from you, and they will get impatient. Hey, we want this functionality in 1 month now, not in 3 months. Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen. They will push you every single sprint, and every single team member will get exhausted after a time. And they will say that, hey, we'll give you 1 sprint downtime. And right after that, they'll expect 3 times more from you. So there is never really a time for you to breathe. It's just you have to go with the flow and get things done. But this is where you're working outside of your comfort zone. And this is where you would really learn a lot. Right? Every 2 weeks, although your responsibilities are same, you're working on a different project and new things, and things just works differently. Right?
Got it.
So that's the role of a Scrum Master. And there are some other meetings that comes in within the sprint, which is between quality analyst and product owner. When the sprint has started, there will be a meeting for defects or bugs review sessions. So for all the stories, there will be a weekly meeting or probably on need basis. If QA is testing stories and QA has found several bugs, they will have this meeting with product owner to find out whether those bugs are valid. First of all, if they're valid, then what is the path for that? Who is going to fix it? Or that bug is going to be fixed as part of next sprint because it was a missed requirement, which means in user story, we did not capture something. So that thing did not get coded. And now it's a new requirement. Should it be part of next sprint or should it be part of the same sprint? Making sense? Super simple. All you're doing is like you are reviewing the user stories there in grooming session. In this one, you're reviewing bugs and identifying the priorities around that. That's it. And your usual meeting,
Why are we identifying the bugs? Why is not the developing team doing that?
QA will identify the bugs,
Okay.
but we will prioritize bugs so that we know the developers are working on the right bugs first. Not every bug is critical to be fixed. So we want to make sure that they're working on the critical bugs first, followed by the less critical ones, and then the less important ones.
But
So we
after
need
one sprint, I'm sorry, after one sprint, we can still launch a minimal viable product, right?
Yes,
we
you can.
Okay.
You can.
And then
But
come back and fix the other bug.
as long as there are no critical bugs in that MVP.
Okay.
Right. And that's the reason you review this, to make sure that if there is a critical bug that needs to be addressed before we go live. And if it means we have to push our release by a week, we have to do that. But we cannot have a poor user experience. So if there is any bug that creates a poor user experience, you cannot go into production. You cannot launch your product. That is the reason you want to make sure development team is focusing on the critical bugs first, followed by less critical ones, and then the less important ones.
Got it.
So you give them this priority. Like you give them the priority on the story, you give them the priority on the bugs as well. And the last one is Scrum Master usually facilitates this session, but this is mostly a product owner show. Everything that has been developed in this sprint, you will pull together your product manager, your development lead, your marketing team, your product director, legal team, and everyone. You give them the demo. This is what we have built so far. Whatever stories we have built here, this is the stories. This is what we have built so far. So it's more like a demo, advertising what you have done as a team, and collect the feedback. If you get go ahead from everyone, awesome, you've done an amazing job, and you can move forward from there. Okay, so that's the role of a product owner here. So if you see, when the sprint started, product owner is involved only at two places: to review the bugs or to provide the clarity on the stories, and the third is to provide the demo session. That's it. Otherwise, his main work is this: pre-grooming and grooming session every 2 weeks. So this is what you do. You pre-groom stories, you groom stories, you review bugs, you give demo sessions, and you work with the stakeholder to let them know that product is about to launch. That's all you do. As a PO, that is your role. If there is a BA, then BA will, everything that you do here, this is all done by BA. Product owner will just work at this level on these two things, and BA will take up the grooming session plus this part. Cool. Are we good so far?
Yes.
And demo session happens at the last of the sprint, because that's when the product is actually ready. Until that product is not ready.
So what is the terminology, the jargon you used when the product is pre-groomed and then groomed? It's finalized. What is the jargon you used?
Story pointed. When the story has points in it, like 1, 3, 5, 8, that means story is groomed now, which means it is ready for the planning session, and team can start developing that story now. If there is no story point to any story, you cannot pick that story in sprint planning and work on it.
Got it. Thank you.
Cool. Any other questions, guys? There is one more meeting that Scrum Master leads. This is called retrospective sessions. This is super simple to understand, but it's very hard to drive it, and I'll tell you why. I'm sure we all have this kind of experiences in our past. When you're writing an exam, and after you are done with the exam, and when you reach home, do you feel like, hey, I should have probably written this answer in a different way? I should have written an answer this way, or I should have probably chosen B and not A for this particular multiple choice question. Have you ever had this kind of imagination or confusion after going home, after writing your exam? I'm assuming yes. All of us go through that, right? Or there is
Always.
any, sorry, what was that?
Always.
Yes.
Always, right? Any task that you do in your life, if it's a very important task, you always go look back at it and see, hey, I think I could have done this thing differently. If I do the same thing next time, I will try to do it in this way, right? That's exact mindset that is required in retrospective session. That is why it's called retrospective. You are going in the past and doing the retrospective of that, hey, how could I get better at what I did? So at the end of every sprint, like in the beginning of every sprint, you have sprint planning. At the end of every sprint, you will have a retrospective session, and team will give you a feedback. What have you done good in the sprint? What you could improve on? And how could we make sure that that improvement happens from next sprint onwards? So 3 things that you cover here in retrospective session. Actually 4 things. So things went well. Kudos. Things to improve. Next steps on important things to improve. This is what you focus on. So every team member, you create a board. In Azure DevOps, there is an option where you can create a board. Again, this is a Scrum Master's job, not your job as a PA or a BA. They will create 4 columns like this in Excel sheet. Things went well. Kudos. Kudos is nothing but celebrations, like appreciation. Someone who has done really good job, you call out their name or the team's name. Things to improve and next steps to improve those things on. So you have these 4 columns. You share this link with everyone in the team 2 to 3 days in advance. You tell people to put your comments in that. So there will be comment that people will say, hey, we as a team, we were able to solve this problem. That was an amazing thing. We launched the product in time. That was amazing. That went well. We had a new team member, but that new team member started contributing in 2 days from the joining date. That's an awesome job, right? Things went well. Kudos will be, hey, this person solved the problem on his own when there was no expectation that we can done this in time. So we're appreciating someone, and this is for anyone, right? You can appreciate your manager or anyone there. No limitations here. So this is all good things to talk about. Things went well and kudos. And suddenly after that, people will start talking about things to improve. And this is where the real fight starts happening, because people will say in the story there was less acceptance criteria. And BA will say, hey, you did not think about these scenarios on your own. We are in Agile. We cannot give you detailed acceptance criteria. Hey, quality analyst did not test this well. So we found this bug in production now from the product which was launched in production, and customers have complained that this is not working well. These are things to improve. So every single member will have something to add in all of these 4 columns. Okay. And again, this is a Scrum Master role. Scrum Master drives this meeting. BA, PO, developer, QA, they are all attendees in this meeting. And Scrum Masters make sure that there is no fights in this discussion. And it's a pretty, people are taking things in a positive spirit. And there is no blame game played here. It's Scrum Master's role to manage that diplomacy and to prevent fights in this meeting. But those people will start blaming team members right and left here. There is not even a single meeting where I did not get blamed, just for your knowledge. It's been like almost 8 years now. There is not even a single meeting in Agile where I was not blamed for something. And there was not even a single meeting where I have not blamed others for anything. So it goes both the ways. So you have to keep your emotions aside when you deal with this retrospective session. And it's a pretty tricky one to manage, because a lot of people don't like to receive feedback, and people get emotional. They feel that I've done so much work and still I'm being questioned, still I'm being blamed. Why is that?
Sounds like the Republican Party.
Yeah, more like that. But so overall, this is all a Scrum Master does. So now you see it's a very short role. And I have handled more than 60 teams as a Scrum Master, just for your knowledge. And this is all I have done. I start with small things, and this is the end result. This is where I will end up with as a Scrum Master and a highly efficient team. Now, if you read books, if you get certifications from some other institutes, you will see they will be talking about so many other things, which is not really required. because a lot of companies are in that zone of transitioning from waterfall to agile, and even the good companies which have been transformed, they are just sticking to these principles that you see here. This itself is a lot. If you just able to come to this level as a company, you are going to achieve like several milestones in a month. This is easier said than done. This is super complicated. What we just discussed in 2 weeks, it takes, as I said, 6 to 8 sprints to really get team to this level of efficiency and get all the Scrum ceremonies added and have all these ceremonies in time. In the beginning, when you join the team, you will see that all the ceremonies are being missed out. They are doing only grooming sessions and just daily stand-up, and that's it, nothing else. So slowly, you start adding more and more meetings. This is the advanced version of that. Cool. Any questions, guys? This is all a Scrum Master does. So you might have wondered that how could we cover 3 roles in one training? As I said, the basic foundation, whether you join Scrum Master training only or product owner training only or business analyst training only, the basic foundation is same. You need to know all these things. On top of that, there are some variations in each roles. And again, I would advise Scrum Master is a very challenging role. It's like dealing with people. I feel dealing with people is more challenging than working in IT, but or anywhere else. But if you feel that you are naturally good at dealing with people, then Scrum Master is the gig for you, and a very lucrative gig. Cool. And I believe, I don't want to say this, but I will just give you this as an analogy. As a parent, when we deal with kids, right? It's often, sometimes it is easy, sometimes it is difficult. But if you want to deal with like more than 2 kids, like 20 kids at the same time, it gets super challenging, right? Because they will fight more now. There are more fights, more discussions, more musty and all those things, right? Same thing happens in the company. When as a Scrum Master, you will see that people are fighting on childish things, like small things. They're just like people are taking things at their heart for no reason because they're super emotional. Someone has worked for 20 years but doesn't know how to communicate. A simple thing, someone keeps saying that, hey, it was written in the story. Man, just talk to that person who's written the story if there is a gap in it, right? Just don't get stuck to it. I still get, I saw in my last meeting in my recent office where I was working, there was a guy who was asking for it. I want to make sure in the grooming session, I want to make sure we are exactly on the same page and there is crystal clear acceptance criteria in this one. And we are not having any confusion. I was so irritated. I was like, man, if there is any confusion, I'm just a call away. And I said this in the meeting. Hey, if there is any confusion, I'm just a call away. It doesn't mean that we have to talk about the same thing 1,000 times. Right? So you will feel that you're dealing with a lot of people who are having childish behavior, or of course, you cannot say this in the company, but you will see things like that. People who have 25 years of experience, they are still not able to match up this simple communication part of it. Agile is all about communication. Dude, just walk into someone's desk and talk about your problem and you will be able to solve your problem. You don't have to wait till tomorrow morning and tell your Scrum Master to talk to a person who is sitting next to you, which you could have done on your own without talking to Scrum Master. Right? Just imagine that Amir has a problem and he's sitting next to me or behind me. And he raised that problem after 24 hours. He told Scrum Master reached out to me. Now I'm going back to Amir's desk and saying, hey, this is how we can solve the problem. Man, if Amir could have stopped at my desk, I could have solved the problem right there and then. Right? All it takes, proactive measures, communicate well, be part of your team, do not have any boundaries. If the moment you start thinking about boundaries, this is not my role, this is his role, you will start having gaps in the company. Just step in, hey, this is what we want to make it happen. How can we make it happen? Be flexible and be proactive. 2 key skills to be successful in Agile. Extremely flexible and extreme proactiveness from your side. If you have those 2 things, you'll just shine in Agile environment. It takes a lot to build those 2 things. It took me years. So again, it's easier said than done. But overall, essence is pretty straightforward. This is how people work in Agile. This is what Agile is meant for. And it's a very high producing methodology. A lot of people rely on this because of because of the speed to market, and the resources can work like more faster than the way they do in waterfall. Cool. With this, I want to conclude the agile session here. There is one last thing that Scrum Master does. I have attached it for you here. And again, this is super into detail. If you are applying for a Scrum Master role, let me know. I'll have a session on this specifically to talk about through these things. This is basically when a story is ready for sprint planning. There is a definition around that. When a story is ready for saying that it can go to testing now, there is a measurement for that, which is this. There is a story that can be marked complete. Development is done, testing is done. When can we say story is complete? This is the measure for that. And there is a story for definition of done checklist. When you go for a release, if these are the things that we have in our checklist, if everything looks good, we can go with the release. Otherwise, we cannot. So these are the criteria being defined as a team. I've attached something which I've seen everywhere, but these criteria will be more or less similar in your companies as well, where you will start working. But this is not something that you need to know right away. But I've still added this in this list so that you can see that. And your agile answer is right here. This is what I would say in my agile. What do I do in agile as a PO or a BA? This is what my role is in agile. This is exactly what I do in agile. This is my interview answer, just for your knowledge. Cool. That sums up our agile. And does it give you clarity now what is Scrum Master role? I think there were a lot of questions before the class has started or from last several weeks about the Scrum Master role. Does it give you clarity now what is expected from a Scrum Master?
I have a general outline, but we'll have to review it.
Yep.
Go
again, this is going back to the same slide. So these are the meetings that you drive: sprint planning, sprint retrospective, and sprint stand-ups. Attends sprint demo and grooming sessions. Attends S1 and S2 meetings. Go or no-go meetings for a release, which is like if you're going to go live tomorrow, you just pull together everyone in your team and ask them, hey, are we ready for launching tomorrow? If they say yes, okay, it's a go. If they say no, it's a no-go. Happy hours. Scrum Master's main job is to arrange one happy hour every month to make sure that team members take away some time, they talk about something else than work, and try to build that rapport with each other. So we go for happy hours every month in the evening, on every Friday or Thursday, every alternate Friday or every once a month, and we just go for a beer or something like that, right? It's happy hour. This is what you do. These are the type of meetings you try. People issues, stories not delivered in time, team members multitasking and not complete stories in time, ensure sprint backlog is always full. This is where you push product owner to make sure that the stories are groomed in time and stories are story pointed. Stories are not delivered in time. This is where the stand-up meeting comes in the picture. If there is a story that is being waiting on some other team, in S2 meeting, you tell them, hey, our team is waiting on your team's input. Can you give that to us? If not, we are blocked, right? When team members are working on more than one story at a time and they're not able to complete any story, so you tell them, hey, work on only one story at a time. Reduce risks or dependencies, as he's the glue between different teams. Handle escalations, which is reach out to individuals or team to find alternatives. If some team member is not happy, escalate this in Scrum 1, S1, S2, and S3 as applicable if there is any issue. Remove blockers, manage release timelines and escalations to make sure project gets delivered on time. And these are the artifacts. So sprint commitments is the part of sprint planning. These are the list of stories we have committed for. This is the hours it's going to take, and this is the amount of story points it's going to take. I forgot to tell you one thing. There is something called sprint velocity. Sprint velocity is the collection of all the story points, summation of all the story points for that one sprint. So in sprint 2A, we have 25 stories. Each story is for 3 points. So it's going to be 75 story points, right? Total. So that becomes a velocity. As a team, we are able to handle 75 points every 2 weeks. And it should naturally go up like from 75 to 80, then 80 to 85, then 85 to 90, as sprint progresses further and further. But your sprint velocity is at a level where it's sustainable. You cannot expect 75 to become 150 in 2 months unless you add more resources, right? 75 can become 90 because you have done more efficiency now. You have had retrospective sessions. You have found ways to do things efficiently. So it can bump from 75 to 90, but to take it from 75 to 150, you have to hire new people, right? So you have to set that expectation really well. So that's what sprint commitments are about. You talk about sprint velocity, and people who have agreed to the stories, what stories they are. Definition of ready and definition of done and definition of sprint complete. You create this document, which is nothing different than we just saw here. This is what it is. You create this chart for them. Definition of done for sprint, and definition of done for release. You create this chart. These are your deliverables. And last is burn down chart. Burn down chart is every task, every story has a task, right? Remember, in sprint planning, all dev members and QA members add their tasks. For this story, these are the tasks and this is the hour. So they put their hours, as in today when I started this story, it had 10 hours. Tomorrow when I work on that story, it will just have 6 hours now. Why? Because I spent 4 hours today. I spent 4 hours yesterday on it. So I've burned 4 hours yesterday on this story. So every team member is working on some stories. So as a team, when you have 300 hours, that is the capacity, right? 300 hours, and you agreed to work for 250 hours, right? So total available hours were 300. Total capacity that you committed to was 250 hours. Now every day you are burning 25-30 hours as a team. So your burn down chart would look like always go down like this, because you started with 250 hours. Now it's 225, then 200, then 175, then 150. At the end of the sprint, it will become 0. And how it happens is in the task itself, where developers and QA members have given their hours, 10 hours, 20 hours, they will start reducing that. 10 will become 8, 8 will become 6, 6 will become 4, 4 will become 2, 2 will become 0. And that's how the naturally progression of the sprint is, that flows. It should always go like this. It should never be like this and then this, which means team did not work in the beginning, and as the time came by, they started working really well. The chart should be always like this, steep. If it is not this, there is something wrong in your agile environment. This is the measurement. So this chart is automatically created in Azure DevOps when someone enters their hours and marks their hour complete. It automatically gets created. And this is a Scrum Master's role. They have to manage this on their own. So this is what Scrum Master does on daily basis and for several teams. Are we good? I wanted to cover one last topic today, which would be super, super quick, about the elicitation techniques. Okay, elicitation techniques. It's very simple, but I will still just, we have already done this, but I wanted to make sure I talk with you about this. Elicitation techniques. So sometimes in the interview, they ask you questions. How do you gather requirements? So you gather requirements using one or more elicitation techniques. What are they? So you have one-on-one interviews. You have group interviews. You can create mock-ups or wireframes. You send out meeting minutes. You do 360-degree feedback. You do surveys. So these are different ways to gather requirements or to gather acceptance criteria for user stories. One-on-one interview is like product owner and product manager. Group interviews is like you are dealing with marketing, legal, and there is one more, brainstorming session. So these are different techniques that you could use to gather requirements or to write detailed acceptance criteria. So one-on-one interviews, group interviews, we've done this several times. Brainstorming session, I've given you several examples of that. Brainstorming session is nothing but you just think freely about how to solve a particular problem. Mock-ups or wireframes we already created. Meeting minutes, remind me, I have to cover this with you in next class. 360-degree feedback is nothing but we go around the table. Every person will share his or her input about a particular topic. Every person in the room. So it's 360-degree feedback, or it will be people who are on the call and who are in the meeting room. It will be on the meeting room first, followed by everyone on the call. But every single person must give their feedback about a particular topic. Surveys, you all have done this, all have filled in surveys. You can create surveys whenever you want and gather information from people. So if you are working on a banking side, if you're working on a product for tellers, like bank teller, right? They are giving you the checks and the cash when you go to them. You can write a survey. Hey, how is our system working? Is there any improvement that we can do? What are you liking about it? What are you not liking about it? When you send that survey, they will naturally come back with their feedback. And that will be a way to gather requirements and come up with new ideas. Pre-analysis is what I have done at least every time before I come to this class. I know what I have to cover in the class. And likewise, when you go into any meeting, as I said, two to three things you have to always take care of. A crisp agenda. This is what we have to cover. And what are the next steps after this meeting? Two things you always want to cover in any meeting. This is what we're going to discuss today. And if there are any open questions, who is going to look into that and what are the next steps? Your meeting should be arranged in these 3 points. Agenda, open questions, and what are the next steps? Every meeting should be around these 3 points. So you will create meetings in that way and you will do analysis for that. So these are different type of elicitation techniques that could be used. And in the interview, they can ask you directly what kind of elicitation techniques you have used. So literally rectify this. This is what you have to say. Okay. And we have done all these techniques in the class. But I wanted to make sure I cover this exclusively so that you understand when someone asks you what is elicitation techniques, we will talk about these points. Are we good?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Amir.
Are there formatted forms that business users to fill in before we
formatted forms for surveys?
No, for what businesses? Surveys would be general. I'm talking about, let's say, we want how a bank does deposits. Okay, so we just give it to the product manager and say, hey, give us a step-by-step on how you do it manually or how do you do it currently. Is that a good?
We have to. There will be no documentation like that. We have to create one. So if you're working for a bank that have branches, what you do is you go to those branch, like you handpick few branches, you work with the person who is working there and you ask them these questions and you will come out with the step-by-step process and you will create the process flow in front of them to make sure they agree with what you have captured. And now you can use that
information. Does that come in? Where does that come in this framework you made? It comes in surveys?
It will be more like a brainstorming session or it will be more on one-on-one interviews because you work with that person directly, right? It will be more on one-on-one interviews or brainstorming session. And there is one more workshop session. Workshop sessions or working sessions is what they call. So everything that we have done in the class, it's all working sessions. What is the working session? You are not prepared for anything. All you do is you get together as a team. There is a topic. Let's fix it. You all will chime in ideas right there and then. Work on the things. Create the stories on the fly for team members. Like you write user stories in front of them. They agree to it. They will start developing. You will start testing it, and everything is done in like 3 hours. It's like working session. So every class that we have had since the classes begin. All of them are working sessions because I literally open up my screen in front of you. I make sure I answer your questions and there is a topic that needs to be covered and then I move forward. So these are the only techniques I have seen at least in the last 12 years, nothing more than this. This is more than enough. And if someone asks you in the interview, give an example. For the brainstorming sessions, you can give an example of the digital mortgage project. for mockups or wireframes or user journey. If you want to create, you can also add user journey here. You can talk about the mobile application app, one-on-one interviews and group interviews. That is the grooming session, pre-grooming session, meeting minutes, 360-degree feedback. And surveys are not used everywhere. It's possibly used when you are really going to get some information from your customers or your clients. But it is one of the ways to get more information. So I think with that being said, I believe all the topics that I had in mind for today have been covered. And I hope after this week's class, you guys have a really robust understanding between BA, PO, and Scrum Master's role. Please go back and look at this slide that I was sharing in last week and this week. It will make a lot of sense to you now. I think we are at a point where we can digest this information now. Cool. There's a comment. Just a second. Let me read the chat. Yeah, Abdul, that is true. So when you offer your help, things can come on your shoulder that you have to do this now. But sometimes I do offer help to people just because it's okay to do a work from your side, because at least project is moving. If project is stalled, there may be questions on you as a PO or a BA that, hey, why didn't you let us know this before? Or why didn't you step in and solve this problem? So ultimately, as I said, if everything goes well in the project, entire team gets credit. If anything goes wrong in the project, it's us who will be blamed. So when you try to help them, you're actually helping yourself. If it makes sense. That's the hardcore reality. And everyone feels that same way. It's not just BA or a PO. All managers will tell their reportees that, hey, just make sure that you do your part. Whether others are doing their part or not, it's not your concern. You make sure you do your part, right?
Yes, definitely.
So I think that's all I had for the class today, guys. And as discussed, thanks for being flexible tomorrow. We won't be having a class tomorrow, but I really want you guys to use that time. I'll be sending this recording probably by end of day today. And these documents you already have. I'll attach the latest ones where we have made some changes in our class, so you can review them. But try to use this time. Do you guys want to meet tomorrow for 3 hours among yourselves to revise things, to talk through things? Feel free. I have no issues with that. You can use Teams, schedule meetings, and coordinate with yourselves. That's completely fine. And our next session will be again coming Thursday for the interview practice.
So are we having a class on Easter too?
Class is what?
So are we having a class on Easter? That's next Sunday?
Yes, okay. Unless you guys have any issues. I was not thinking to do a class on next Sunday.
Okay, whatever. Because next Sunday is Easter's.
Yeah. So do you guys have any preference on that day, or you guys are comfortable to have a class? I don't follow any schedule, guys. So I'm a workaholic person. I usually don't take breaks on Sundays unless I really have to. So you guys have to tell me if Easter is a big day for you or not. I'm open to take class on that day.
Yeah, I have to dress up like a bunny and pass out eggs.
What was that?
I'm just joking. I said I have to dress up like a bunny and pass out eggs.
Oh yeah. So we can do class early or later in the evening if that helps on Sunday. But I was hoping to have that class so that we could really start working on the resume preparation and interview preparation after a day from there, after that class. So I'm looking at probably 2 to 3 more classes, Amir. Depending on the progress in next 2 to 3 classes is what we are looking at. And then, of course, interview preparation and resume preparation, the big things. We will need to focus on that for a week and a half or 2 to make sure we all have our resumes prepared. We are all preparing for the interviews. I do have a couple of hours recording for interview sessions as well, which I'll be sharing it with you. But I really want you guys to start participating in the Thursday's class more now after this week. And we will be actually starting having interviews in this Thursday's class and making it really, really interview focused and not really a question and answer session. Like if you have any question from the class, that can be taken offline, but we'll purely focus on the interview from this Thursday onwards. Cool.
Okay.
And I am having a plan, guys. Just want to let you know, I'm having a plan to put you guys on the spot, or I want you to volunteer that, hey, this Thursday, I'm going to give my interview in front of these 6 people and they can ask me any questions from the class. I really want you to come confident and make yourself vulnerable in that 30-40 minutes session so that it will be helpful for you because you are coming out of your fear and you will get to know where you stand. And every single person in the class has to do that. If they don't, then I'll have to volunteer your name. But there is no escape from that. Oh, we all want jobs, guys. So it's my duty to make sure that you all volunteer yourself in that, or I would put you on the spot.
Make sure I have my frosted flakes that morning.
Yeah, whatever it takes. Cool. Thank you, guys, and hope you guys have a great weekend. And please try to use tomorrow's time to your favor. Try to go through all this information, and I would not expect you to go through all the recordings again. But if you go through the folder class documents in the Teams, go through all those documents, read them really, really well, read them few times. I feel after looking at that information, you don't have to go back to the recordings again and spend 3 hours again to go over this information. If there is something which is not making sense, then go to that specific recording, that portion of that recording, and just listen through that. But I think this documentation itself will really help you understand what we have covered so far, and you should know how to talk through those things.
Sure.
Right. So that's the shortcut for you. Focus on class documents first. Refer recordings only where it's applicable to make your life easy. Cool. With that said, final bye. Take care, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Jay.
Great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.